What's good everybody? Ivy here. Welcome to a new episode of Metal Mixing Guide Podcast. Today I'm about to demonstrate the replica of one of my favorite albums, Crossover Ministry by Reagan. Before we start the video, I'd like to remind that you can support my channel on Patreon. For just $1 per month you will get file packs for all the videos that I've made throughout the years. File pack for this episode includes full set of projects for Cubase and Reaper, custom impulses together with presets and other stuff. You can get it by following link in the description. There you will also find link to unlisted video with complete demonstration of project settings. Let's start from guitar's reamping project. At first look it may seem like something complicated, but it's really not. Quad-tracked guitars are represented by two processing models. Guitar A is our main source of sound, and Guitar B is more like a background support for it. Let's take a look at Guitar A first, started from main track, which is dedicated to reamping. Same as always, I'm using Revolver 4th, with XXX amp and 808 Screamer on pedal board. Right after we have tone matching impulse together with EQ that compensates for low and high end slopes of convolver. The signal then splits down to two parts. One of them is going to pass the signal as is, with full panning to the left, and second track pan to the right is dedicated to simulation of space. ProR generates roomy-like reverberation, which is then processed with matching impulse to mimic the character of guitar space from the record. Both tracks then sum up on dedicated bus, the holder of integrational processing from the mix. First, we're going to deal with loud palm mutes by using internal sidechain from lower part of spectrum. Normally I would use multiband around 250 Hz, but this time it's really about the overall level of guitar and not lower mid-range resonances. Right after I use some EQ to get heavier sounding that will interact well with other elements of the mix. Now other guitar is working exact same way, but with inverted panning. Same goes for second pack of guitars. It's all about different matching impulses, slight deviations in panning and lower levels, that's really it. All the tracks sums up on GTR bus which I'm going to use to render the stem. Next up, bass guitar. This project is based on model from Metal Mixing Guide number 28, meaning we use same instrument, same programming technique and same DI correction impulse. Dark glass B7U is used to get proper distortion, and right after I use dedicated impulse to match the tone. Then we use 2 units of soothe to get rid of mid-range dirtiness. Finally, EQ fixes the tone in a way that will work in a mix with other elements. Now it's time to get multi-track of drums. Let's check this out. This project is also based on MMG number 28. Aside from some minor changes in the core of template, it's mostly about the use of different matching impulses, so there's not much to talk about. Elements that suffered pretty noticeable changes are kick and snare output buses, and that's what I'd like to focus on. Let's start from kick. First half of processing is dedicated to matching the tone of higher mid-range and above. That includes matching impulse and some EQ corrections that I forgot to sum with it during deconvolution. Now second half is all about getting proper low end. We use low end focus to get rid of unwanted sustain, massive boost of 50 Hz with our bass exciter and also boost of 150 Hz with the EQ. Now let's go for snare bus. Matching impulse shapes the tone. Soothe helps to get rid of sliding resonance around 500 Hz. And finally EQ is used as integrational move to get rid of everything that didn't sound well in the mix during initial stem test. And that's pretty much all when it comes to big changes. Once MIDI programming is complete, it's time to print the multitrack. I'm using two-pass way of export explained in MMG number 28, in order to avoid weird bug with sample chokes on modern and massive library. This thing is unrelated to disk access time or context buffer, so if it's not your case, feel free to mark both E1 and E2 tracks for single-pass export. Now it's time to sum all the stems together here in Master Project. You already know how it sounds from the intro. All I use on channels is sidechain compression for bass and guitars. First one receives signal from kick and snare, shortly ducking the bass to provide better punch for drums in a mix. And second one is driven by snare only, providing us with specific type of pumping on guitars. Now really cool thing about this project is the space. I'll turn down the master and root tracks to stereo out to properly demonstrate them. First in line, room reverb. Originally it's supposed to be partial simulation of side information of snare drum, but I ended up sending some bass there too. It's done pretty much the same way as guitar space, only with different reverberation settings and different tone correction. Next up, room snap. It's pretty much what the name says. short delay of Uber mode together with 2 steps of tone correction gives us some nice stereo snap, some sort of early reflection of the room. I used 2 equalizers because I've had to make high-pass filter phase linear in order to avoid phase cancellation of lows for kick and bass. Last reverb is much bigger space that helps to fill the holes in the mix. And now let's see what happens if we try to turn it off. It really brings some life to the sound. Now all the tracks are going to master bus. First thing that I'm using here is some gluing saturation of NLS bus. Since our stems are pretty hot, I created additional headroom dropping bus input by 10 decibels, just to make sure that NLS won't clip. Multiband compressor with pretty standard settings, helps to glue everything together. Next, compression of muddy region around 300 Hz. Compressor is set up to be pretty fast and it mostly reacts to snare, putting it deeper in mix. Last element is Pro L2 in modern mode. Gain value is compensating level drop on input of the bus. And so that's pretty much it for this video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon in the next one.